Hi there, traders. This is Brad from Traders for Traders. Now, just coming to you with this special presentation on the UK referendum, expected on the 23rd of June. Now, we've still got over a month before this event happens, but you need to really fine-tune your trading and your analysis to factor this in, because it's going to be topsy-turvy from here. And as we've seen, the to's and fro's of sterling have been really dictated to by the initial polls out there in the market. So just coming back to one of the major pages that is available, it's the euroreferendum.gov.uk. Now you can come in here and find out a whole heap of information about the positives for staying, what happens if you leave. And this is a government site to really try and educate the general UK population on the ins and outs of the EU referendum without having too much bias. Now, one of the things to really consider is everyone is running polls on this, right? And the currency itself, and I'll come to that in a second, is really being pulled apart because of this, okay? You've got the what you think org, okay, opinion polls. Everyone's sort of determining that their poll is the most important. This poll here has the remaining at 51% and leaving at 49%, you know, pretty close. Now, that's not going to get a lot of market activity. So what you generally find is the news services will not focus on something like this. They'll look for something else which has got a little bit more tangible movement. Now, even the Financial Times have got their own poll. Now, stay 46%, leave 44%. Once again, that's pretty close, right? So it's not going to create too much news. It's not going to get people reading newspapers. What you can find, and this is even coming over to Reuters, what we use, this is where you can find the various components of where these polls are. Now, the Orb poll puts in at 55% and out at 40%. This was the market making news, or the move, or the news that moved sterling on Tuesday. Ended up moving about 100 points to the top side. They have the TNS poll, a different poll again, has the out at 41% and in at 38%. But once again, that was pretty much brushed as the market focused on that bigger news at the top there. So what does this mean for us? Well, it means a number of different things. It means, number one, you need to be very conscious of when you are trading sterling, what time of the day it is, whether there's a new poll out or not, and really focusing on the economic fortunes of sterling. It has been pulled from pillar to post on the back of these issues. Now, one thing to note, if you've watched any sort of major news event, right, you'll find that the news services, they do not sort of generally give you the full story one way or the other. Okay, not at the same time. Generally, what happens is, and this is where the vote, sterling rallied very aggressively on the opportunity for them to stay in the EU. That was the whole vote around this. Now, just on one single day, there was a change in that sentiment where the exit vote was winning, and sterling dropped from close to 148 down to 145, like 250 points, 300 point move. We did have some weak economic data in the middle here, but it was already moving south on the back of that exit poll being in front. Now, that continued to hold as those news services continued to run that news over the next couple of days. Then what you find happens is they will generally run cold on the news. Either the polls change, the media focus changes, and so do the tax of the various components, or opponents, I should say. So the people who want to go in, okay, if the polls are showing out or winning, well, generally they do a countermeasure and do a lot more promotion that either stops the out vote winning and actually comes back into their favor. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing cable pushed from pillar to post on these polls. Now, what can you do about that? Well, what you've got to understand is look for opportunities where you've got good technical trend lines and you can place break trades in here. If there's a change in the poll, you'll get a change in direction. Okay, so even setting up for this yesterday, I mean, we only had 2 touches on this trend line at the very top here, like coming from the top to the second point. Now, when those polls were announced, it was already sort of moving through 144, sort of 35.40. And then it sort of continued on its way. Now, it depends on how far away the trend line is to the current market. Now, if it's already moved 100 points, well, then the opportunity is going to be over. But as I said, a general change in perception, okay, will lead to a significant turnaround or retracement in the currency. In this situation, I think it hasn't gone on too far, primarily because we we had a number of other things come out, weaker UK CPI figures. So that sort of slowed the move down to the top side. And this is the tough part about trading the Brexit or a poll. It's a geopolitical event. We've got technical levels, we've got the economic numbers coming out as usual. So just when you do have positions, I wouldn't necessarily let them run 300 points without aggressive trailing stops or even having stop loss adjustments along the way, okay? That allows you to stay in the trade without worrying about a poll coming out. Now, what I'm basically saying is if you get a general momentum down and the whole basis of this move is on the back of a exit, okay, Brexit, as they call it, well, then you could have a trailing stop loss above the market, because if there is a poll that comes out, you know it will correct the general momentum and catch the market unawares, and you get a significant move to the top side. Once that happens, come back to the economic numbers, make sure there's nothing significant coming out that could upset the whole rhythm here, or the whole movement. Now, what we have this week in particular, okay, we have a whole bunch of economic numbers out of the UK. So this is what we have to factor in. Now, today we have the average weekly earnings, the unemployment figures, and the claimant count change. Now, trying to fit this into the picture here, it can be somewhat difficult. And then the following day, we have UK retail sales figures. Okay, so you have to work out the impact. Where is the momentum in the market with regards to the polls? And that's where you can come back to those any of those sites and actually really have a good look through those. Or even if you do have Reuters, okay, you can go in and find out where they are getting their sources from and go directly to those polls. And if you do start to see a turnaround there, well, then that's when you will see a move. And on some of those sites, okay, they will have the general date for the next poll. Okay, so if I just come over here, all polls, see if we can get that up. Okay, yep. Well, here's another one. There's a whole range here. I've just typed in, well, that's actually the US polls. I don't want those polls. I want the all polls from the UK. No, I'll have to come back and search for those. That's where you come back into the components, and I look for the actual news itself. All poll puts in at 55% and out at 40%, pretty much against a lot of the other polls in the market. Now, so where can we sort of see where the main action is? Okay, if you come back over here, now I've got a couple of templates here that I use off Reuters or Metastock Zenith. This is the news service we use. What you can find is if you come into the actual European time frame, there is one area where this is actually having a huge impact, and it's not, well, of course it's on sterling. Now, this is one of the reasons why Euro has been holding up quite well. It's mainly basically on Euro sterling, but we have started to see a breakdown in Euro sterling. So Euro sterling is a real good European proxy for what's going on in with those polls. Now, once again, if they're going to be in the stay in the EU, okay, what you generally get is strong sterling and Euro sterling driving to the downside. When the Brexit issue comes up, okay, the Brexit polls are in front, Euro sterling rallies. At the moment, with that stronger poll, even as recent as yesterday, we did see Euro sterling move down on that stronger sterling outlook. Now, you can see how this is correcting. Now, don't forget, it was trading sideways, then we get the next bunch of polls. So just keep an eye on this. If you are in front of the screens when those polls are released, okay, look to take advantage of it. Once again, Brexit, Euro sterling rallies. Remain, which is the British remaining in the EU, and then Euro sterling falls. All right, and that's the general outline of the whole Brexit issue. Understand where Euro sterling's going, understand where sterling's going. If they are remaining in the EU, it's looked as a positive for sterling, sterling rallies. If it looks like the Brexit are winning, sterling falls and Euro sterling rallies. Okay, it's one of those little tricky situations that you just need to understand the general way or the flow of the news and how it comes out and where it goes from there. So as I said, if you do usually see, right, a poll which is showing, like yesterday, the all poll showing that they were the in vote was winning significantly, what you usually see is the market is now tapered out. I would be surprised not to see the EU British people who want to exit EU. Really put on massive advertising, promotions, and then you get that whole media focusing on that, and then the whole those polls can change very quickly. All right, and don't forget there are a number of different polls. Trading around geopolitical issues is a bit of a nightmare. Understand that, that's for sure. So make sure what you're looking for is a more defined range than what we currently have. The best opportunity that I could sort of highlight to you is the even where sterling was rallying aggressively, where we had this trend line, it was looking rather gorgeous. This is on the back of the whole Britain staying in the EU. It looked very positive. Everything was hunky-dory, and there was one poll significantly. So this is over the course of, say, the 17th to the 3rd, like 2 weeks of real positive news, and then the bad news came all at once, and it was all over the newswires, and that's where they focused on it, and that's where you get the big move back down. Okay, and don't forget these polls will dominate the economic numbers as well, so that's something else to keep an eye on. So if you are trading around economic events and you do see a poll released or it flashes up on the news wires, probably wise to either have a quick look, see what the impact is, and probably square up your position if it is against it, because it will run probably a little bit further than usual on the back of these geopolitical events. All right, so that's the whole Brexit issue. Hopefully this opens your eyes a little bit further to the to's and fro's of sterling and where these opportunities lie. As I said, some of the best trades may not actually be in sterling. It may be just in euro sterling. All right, or I don't think euro is going to provide the best opportunities. It's more euro sterling and sterling, and euro is taking a back seat at this point. All right, and that's the main issue. Now we look at the date today. It's the 18th of May. We've got until the 23rd of May, 23rd of June, I should say, before this thing is resolved. And if it's anything like the Scottish referendum that we had last year, this is going to get a lot more volatile closer to the events, and you'll see sterling moving 100, 200 points every session at least, just on small vote swings. And then on the actual day itself, as the referendum goes live, you can be sure that a lot of these polls will be impacting their currency a lot closer than you otherwise think. Now, don't forget, there is a lot of news you can read about this. I don't think there's any point going into it too much at this point. It's mainly looking at the key polls. Find out what polls the market is looking at closely, and then look at those polls, because that's the most important ones you need to be looking at. All right. And if you are in the UK, we'll check out this Euro referendum page. Probably good information there for you to assess whether you vote yes or no, and make sure you're registered to vote. It's going to be pretty important come June 23rd. All right, guys. Well, that's a bit of a wrap on the Brexit issue, where the currencies are moving on the back of those things. I personally think that the fear campaign around leaving will dominate, and we'll see sterling higher, back up towards 147, once we get down to that June 23rd deadline. And I definitely see euro sterling a lot lower as well from there. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. You'll find this on the site, and we look forward to hearing from you further. If you do have any further questions, jump on the forum or send us an email, and we can hopefully answer your questions. Cheerio.